Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. I have several updates to share with you for today, December 8th, 2022. So I will start with a very serious call. Uh, it's a very short video I shared from Times Media. uh, it's an announcement to join and to defend the Amharas uh, living in East Wallagga. So, the Amharas are just going, walking in the city and calling on the Amharas to arm themselves with whatever they can and defend the Amharas in Wallagga. So the situation is not easy for the Oromos. It's going to be ethnic cleansing. This is a very short video, very serious video I shared from Times Media. So it's a very tough one, really. The Oromo students tired of these atrocities, beheading, and looting, burning of Oromo's property, and they are calling for justice, accountability. But what is happening is more atrocities, more killing, more ethnic cleansing might be coming to Oromia region. If this video is, you know, true, if this call for, the call on all Amaras to come into Wallagga and carry out or to defend they claim to defend Amaras. So let's say it's an Amharic, but it's a very serious one, and it should be translated and keep for record. It's a very serious. It's a war crime, really. Let's listen.
I was down to talk to my
So
doctor.
that's a call
Ask your healthcare provider about
to
Rybelsus
stand
today.
with
Card, making it happen since
the
1889.
Amaras. That's a claim. The Amaras suffering. So that video, that shorty, should be verified, and it should be shared with Oromos and with all concerned communities. This is very serious. It could be Rwanda. Rwanda may be repeating in Ethiopia. So our students have no weapons. They just coming out and to be the voice for the situation in Oromia. Now they are also suffering beating, arrest, kidnapping by Ethiopian government force. Some of them prevented from coming out from campus. For example, in Adama University, Adama Science and Technology University students just blocked from coming out and to be the voice for the situation happening in Oromia, especially in East and West Wallagga. So this video is this call for all Amaras to carry on whatever they have, weapons, spares, whatever machetes, and get ready to go to Wallega. It's a very serious one. Guys, spread the news, and we should prevent this such kind of ethnic cleansing. This is a very serious one. So the Oromo students are still demonstrating in spreading from corner to corner everywhere. They are calling an end to these atrocities in Oromia, but I don't think you know with the prime minister in the office, with Shimalis Abdisa there, and with Fanos, all these effort, it will not come to an end. Thus, for the situation to be changed in Ethiopia, I call on the prime minister multiple times. He should be step aside. He should be step aside for the country to remain united, for the people to live safely. Other than that, there is more trouble, more bloodshed, more ethnic cleansing coming into, especially into Oromia, as long as the prime minister stays in power. I know they are enjoying in Awasa, celebrating the 17th nationalities, holidays. They don't care. He already ordered the security forces to beat students, to kidnap about 40 students from Ambo University, already kidnapped, and nobody knows the whereabouts, just for peacefully demonstrating against the genocide happening in East and West Wallega. So the beating is reported, and blocking students from coming out and to protest. So that's the situation. And despite all this pressure, but students are still protesting, even planning to block roads and boycotting their meals at the universities. They are doing whatever they can. But the Oromos, the other Oromos, this is not only about students. The whole Oromos must come out and denounce. It's not about university students. It's not about elementary or middle school or high school students. This is an issue Oromos are facing in general. So the whole towns, cities must come out and denounce the ongoing atrocities in East and West Wallega, plus in Shoa. So I don't know why they are just watching the students' demonstration. They should join them. They should join them and demand the removal of Shimalis Abdisa, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and the Prosperity Party. That's the only way. If you are just watching the student, nothing will come out, nothing will change. So what the students are saying, I will play this video, is in Afan Oromo. Students joined the protest recently, in addition to Addis Ababa, 6 kilo, 4 kilo. More universities and the schools are joining the protest. Bole Hora University, Dilla University, Buno Badelle University, Jinka University, Wachamo University, Ambo, Jimma, RC Universities, Samara University, Gambella University, and schools in Burayu town also joined these protesters. So some of the slogans are the following, what they are saying in Afan Oromo. I just roughly translated. Down, down Abiy Ahmed, down, down Shimalis Abdisa, that's Oromia region president and the prime minister Abiy Ahmed. They want change. They want the removal of the prime minister. Fano is a terrorist group. It must leave Oromia immediately. We cannot participate in teaching learning process while our people are subjected to Fano atrocities and government drone strikes. Oromia is bleeding. We demand freedom. We demand peace and justice. Oromo Liberation Army is fighting for our cause. Give us pen and papers, not guns and bullets. Oromos must unite against all ongoing existential threats in Oromia. Stop genocide in Oromia. The government must stop the beheading of our people and the displacement plus the looting and the burning of our people's properties. So they are, as I said, they are boycotting meals at the university and also talking about blocking major roads and the streets to show their anger. But the problem is now we do not have international coverage. I don't know, all global media are silent. Even our neighbors, Kenya, Sudan, they don't pay attention. BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, DW, VOA, all of them are silent, and the United States also silent on this major issue happening in Oromia, and no statement of concern on the ongoing civil unrest and the genocide happening in Wallega. So we are not getting international media coverage. Al Jazeera is not covering, BBC is ignoring, and the CNN is ignoring, VOA is ignoring, DW, all of them, all international men. No one is mentioning this major protest reached from corner to corner. So they are silent so far. They are silent, very silent, and we don't know why they are not paying attention. And the United Nations also silent. Thousands and the thousands of people are displaced, and they are in need of, urgent food assistance plus other medications. Thousands they displaced from their homes, and they are not getting United Nations attention, no humanitarian aid. So far, only the Oromos in diaspora community are doing, their part to help those victims. But the international community, they should pay attention. United Nations, they should pay attention. International media, they should not ignore this very serious situation. It's heading to maybe ethnic cleansing, as I show you in that video. So we need international media attention and the United Nations to help the displaced people in Oromia. So let's listen, and I will continue with other news. So they are also, as I said, the problem is the prime minister. The problem is prosperity party that organize, finance, train, fund militia to conduct such atrocities. So they are also demanding the government to stop this. So they are denouncing the beheading and drone strikes.
I prefer a more solitary monastic lifestyle.
Okay, I will come back to that videos also. That's anger, frustration you can see from students, and they're just looking for a change. They cannot attend school while their people are attacked by government drones and the beheading and other atrocities carried out by Fano militia. There is no way. There is no. You need mental stability to pay attention what the lecturer is saying. If that mental stability is not established, you cannot learn anything. So they are right. They are right. So that should be controlled, and to control that, we need to call. We need to come out, all Oromos, not only students, all farmers, traders, everybody should come out and demand the removal of this failed prime minister in Ethiopia and his leadership, and then call for transitional government in Ethiopia. That's the only way we can stop this ethnic cleansing and ethnic hate and all this beheading. I never seen Ethiopians are doing this. I heard about those bad things in Menelik time, but now it's coming to reality at this 21st century. Beheading and burning human body, taking selfie, glorifying the act, and without no accountability. No accountability. That's very disturbing. That's why I say this prime minister must go, and his leadership is a failed leadership. And the Ethiopians and the Oromos especially should join students. Don't leave to the students. And it's not a one-day thing. You have to persistently demonstrate like Sudanese or the Arab Spring to bring change. If not, you cannot see any change, and you cannot remove this failed leadership in Ethiopia. Let me read other news. This is physicians call on international national health actors to give attention to war-affected areas in Oromia as UN warned to hostilities continue to uproot civilians. This is credit for Addis Standard. Oromia Physicians Association, OPA, a non-governmental professional association called on governmental and non-governmental bodies, international and national humanitarian health actors, and communities to give due attention to the war-affected areas in Oromia to alleviate the undermined healthcare and humanitarian crisis in the region. According to Oromia Physicians Association's open letter to the international and the national health actors, the currently ongoing war in different parts of Oromia, particularly Welegga and the Shoa zones, is spiraling into greater depths and complexity day by day without getting any attention. The direness of basic needs and healthcare service is being embittered by access gaps and security constraints, probably in its worst forms. Number of internally displaced peoples are considerably increasing as more and more people flee their homes and end up in crowds of deplorable living and unprotected shelters. Appreciating the efforts being made in supporting the war-affected areas in the northern part of Ethiopia, Oromo Physician Association expressed its regret as it has been reaching out to its national and international affiliates to launch similar efforts in mitigating the crisis in Oromia, and the request for collaboration to a number of stakeholders didn't get positive response so far. Despite the commendable involvement in war-affected areas of other parts of the country, the international health response in conflict-affected areas of Oromia region is deemed to be below what the unabated crisis deserves. In addition to pressing problems like shortage of emergency medications, medical commodities, and basic medical equipment, lack of continuous supply, shortage of healthcare providers, specialized healthcare professionals in particular, the security and instability in these areas is hindering health services access that home deliveries have notably increased along with tragic mental health incidents, the letter added. Healthcare workers are also being threatened, detained, harassed, intimidated, and sometimes attacked by the warring parties, and many workers leave the conflict areas in search of safer workplaces. Oromia region is burdened with multiple crises, continuously driving humanitarian needs. Hostilities in western Oromia, particularly Welegga, continue to uproot civilians and destroy livelihoods and basic infrastructure, according to the latest report by the UN Office of Coordination Humanitarian Affairs. The latest report reveals that new displacement figures have yet to be confirmed for lack of access, but it is expected to cause a drastic increase to the existing internally displaced people caseload in the area. Local authorities confirmed there are over 106,000 internally displaced people in West Welegga zone and 116,000 internally displaced people in Horoguduru, Welegga alone. The regional government is established additional independent internally displaced people sites to accommodate the increasing IDP, internally displaced people, influx. Needs are outpacing response effort. For example, only 1,100 households of almost 19,000 households in need in West Walega zone and 9,337 households of 30,000 households in need in East Walega zone have so far received shelter and non-food items support. Similarly, hostilities in Guji and the West Guji zones are impeding flow of assistance. In a report released on 11th November, the United Nations said that due to the prevailing insecurity since 2019 in western and southern Oromia, the humanitarian crisis has been deteriorating from time to time. The major cause is clashes with gunmen, The major cause is clashes with gunmen. According to the statement, there are an estimated 740,000 internally displaced people, IDP, in Western Oromia, border areas with the Amhara and the Benishangul Gumuz regions. The statement also stated that the violence has restricted transportation and the distribution of humanitarian assistance to the people in those areas. Aid workers were also unable to distribute assistance to IDP in East and West Walega zone due to movement restrictions. Vehicles and commodities have been stranded. Aid workers have experienced detention and other forms of harassment, according to the statement. Latest report by United Nations further detailed that malnutrition is also a rising concern in Oromia, particularly in the drought-affected zones. According to a recent survey of more than 563,000 children screened, 1.96% were found severely malnourished and 18% moderately malnourished. Shortage of nutrition supplies and low partners' presence in several drought-affected waradas remain a challenge. The Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, has been carrying out military operations against the federal forces in Oromia since 2018. The Ethiopian government has also been taking offensive measures against the rebel group, and recently militants from the Amhara region and those who have been living in Harro village in East Walega zone for a long time have been accused by residents and officials of attacking civilians. An aerial offensive carried out by government forces on 9th November killed dozens of individuals in Mandi town in West Walega zone. 3 days earlier, Addis Standard reported that civilians were killed in the clash between OLA combatants and government forces in Naqamt, capital of East Walega zone. 2 attacks blamed on Amhara militant called Fano on 25 and 29th of November in Kiramu district, East Walega zone of Oromia region, killed dozens of people, including Damto Kafialo Gamada, Kiramu district court judge. So credit at this standard. So the challenge is not only the international media ignoring the situation in Oromia, but humanitarian organizations, humanitarian aid organizations are also not paying enough attention. So I don't know what to do. Please, listeners, share the news, maybe do your part. We have to wake them up, push them, demand, they should act just based on humanity. So I don't know why they are silent. They are reporting about the protest in Sudan. the protest elsewhere, but why they are ignoring the protest in Oromia? It's well known, it's all over the country, and why they are ignoring those thousands and thousands of people displaced in Oromia. I don't know. I don't know, something wrong. This is from on the upcoming US African Summit. Is coming December 13 to 15, and Prime Minister is not coming, according to different media information. The president is coming, so Oromos and others should come out and protest against Biden for inviting, the authorities from Ethiopia to attend this summit. These are people who are responsible for all the atrocities happen in Ethiopia. More than 500,000 people died in the conflict in the last 2 years, and now is more bloodshed happening in Oromia. Actually, since 2018. So they don't deserve. They don't deserve the invitation. These are criminals. These are criminals. So the president cannot be, ignored. She is part of the Prosperity Party. Let me read what it says. Biden blocks Eritrea and Somaliland from US-Africa Summit. The United States has sidelined Eritrea and Somaliland from much anticipated US-Africa Summit, in which President Joe Biden is set to hold dozens of leaders from the continent to discuss on deepening relationship between America and Africa. In a statement, officials said Eritrea was sidelined due to strained diplomatic relations with Washington, while Somaliland was left out because it is yet to be recognized. The breakaway region of Somalia has been fighting for recognition, which is not forthcoming. We have decided to be as inclusive as possible and consistent with the African Union and our own recognition of governments, Judd Devermont, the National Security Council's Senior Director for African Affairs, said in response to a VOA question about the exclusion of some African states. Already invited are 49 heads of state and governments, according to Dana Banks, the senior advisor to President Joe Biden, who noted that African Union Commission boss Moussa Faki was also notified. This just comes a few hours after Somalia President Hassan Sheikh said he is ready for talks with Somaliland. Invitations were sent to countries who are in good standing with the African Union, she said. Currently, there are 4 countries that have been suspended by the African Union, and so they were not extended invitations, in addition to 2 countries, one which we do not recognize and one with whom we do not share full diplomatic relations, Bank said. Mali, Sudan, Guinea, and Burkina Faso have been suspended from the 54-nation African bloc because of political instability. Eritrea, on its part, is accused of gross violation of human rights, including the alleged participation in the Tigray war. Yes, Isaias does not deserve to come to Washington, D.C. and enjoy the 2-day summit. He doesn't deserve too much blood on his hand, whether the Tigrayans' blood and Eritreans' blood. That country has liberated from Ethiopia, but they are in a miserable condition. Miserable condition. He is a dictator. He is spoiling Ethiopia, destroying Ethiopia, advising Abiy Ahmed, sending forces into Oromia region, and accused for his part in Tigray genocide. Still there, still is not out. His forces are still carrying out looting and killing and the destruction of Tigrayan properties. So he doesn't deserve to come here. That country, Eritrea, Isaias, doesn't have any constitution, no opposition party, no election at all, no term limit, and no freedom of religion, no freedom of speech, no freedom of assembly. People tortured, killed, people disappeared. With such kind of record, if he is allowed to come to the United States and attend African Summit, the United States will be ashamed based on the human rights violations. So Biden did good job on Isaias Afwerki, but he failed on inviting President Saleh Zewde. That's wrong. She's part of Abiy Ahmed. She's an advisor. She is the head of Abiy Ahmed and the Prosperity Party. So she should not be invited. But I heard she's coming, so the only thing we can do is come out and protest against it. We continue to work separately with those countries to encourage a return to democratic transition, so we are in a better position to have a strong partnership with them, said U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Mali Fee. We want to make sure that our vision aligns with the vision of that Africans have for their continent, Fee said, adding that she hoped leaders leave the summit feeling that the partnership with the US makes a concrete difference in the daily lives of African people. The US State Department says it does not provide bilateral assistance to Eritrea as its government's request, but maintaining an enduring desire to build relationships with the Eritrean people, including through cultural exchange and other programs. Yes, the people deserve something. Yes, that's good. But Marisa Lorenzo, a Johannesburg-based political and economic risk analyst, told VOA that the decision to exclude some African states from the summit is unjustified, noting that it is not entirely surprising considering bilateral tension between the US and the excluded countries. The US may be using the countries as scapegoats, she said, due to their strong alliance with states like Russia and China, and to signal that political instability and coups are not justified transition in government. We do not live in a bipolar world anymore, she said. We live in an increasingly multilateral, multipolar world, and African countries know this. They know that they can effectively engage with a lot of governments, whereas before it was kind of picking a side, and that is not really the case anymore. Okay, that's their argument. For 2 years, Eritrea was accused of perpetrating extrajudicial killing in Tigray in 2-year-old war that left thousands of ethnic Tigrayans dead, and to date, her troops are yet to leave the region, even after the signing of a peace deal in South Africa and Kenya under the sponsorship of African Union. Yes, Eritreans are still in Tigray, and Abiy Ahmed and the Ethiopian government scared of Isaias Afwerki. They don't want to demand. They don't want to say. Maybe they can talk secretly, but they are officially they're supposed to demand Eritrean soldiers leave Tigray according to the Pretoria Agreement, according to the Kenya Agreement. So I don't know what the Eritreans are waiting. They are waiting more restriction from U.S. government. Nothing can come out from United Nations. The only hope we have is European Union or US, if they can do something to force them leave Tigray, leave the Tigrayans alone, and pay the price for for the 2 years what they did to the Tigrayan people. So credit for that news is Garo Online. This is the Somalian online news. Garo Online. This is also on Eritrea, United Kingdom. Member of Parliament host exhibit on Eritrea disappearances. An exhibition about Eritrea's disappeared former government officials and the journalists has been launched in the United Kingdom Parliament. On Tuesday, Member of Parliament from the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Eritrea, APPG, called for the release of the disappeared and improvement of human rights in Eritrea. Lord Alton of Liverpool, who has been critical of Eritrea's human rights situation, said the exhibition would help highlight the plight of the missing. Among those detained since September 2001 are former senior ministers, members of the now suspended National Assembly, and senior military generals. Almost 22 years since 2001, almost 20 or 21 years since 2001 disappeared. That's ridiculous. That's a brutal regime. The group of officials known G15 wrote an open letter demanding accountability and democratic reforms. Patrick Grady, a British SNP member of parliament who spoke at the exhibition's launch, spoke of the devastating stories he had heard. Over the years, we have heard testimonies that brought us to tears. Testimonies from families who do not know where mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, children, and other relatives are, or if they are even alive. Terrible. 11 of the G15 group were arrested after criticizing President Isaias Afwerki, who has ruled the country since 1991. He refused to implement an already ratified constitution, suspended the National Assembly, and has never held national election. Thanks to the Eritreans. They are silent. And if you are silent, nobody can come out from outside and fight for your right. You need to fight for your right. That is dictatorship. In the wake of the high-profile arrests, President Isaias' government also shut down all private newspapers and arrested many of its editors and journalists. The same like Abiy Ahmed is heading, we are heading that way if Ethiopians are silent. The arrested have never appeared in any court of law and have been held incommunicado for over 20 years. Human rights groups say there are many others who have disappeared after their arrest by security authorities since 1991. Eritrea officials have always rejected accusations of human rights abuses as a demonization by the West. The exhibition, organized in collaboration with Pan Eritrea Focus, and Amnesty International will be open until Friday, so until tomorrow. Credit BBC Tigrinya. So that's the situation. You got your independence, but you mismanaged your independence. You're supposed to make this person accountable when he starts changing the constitution. You let him do whatever he want to do. Now you are paying heavy price. This is on Sudan from U.S. State Department. Expanded visa restriction policy for individuals undermining the democratic transition in Sudan. We welcome the December 5 signing by Sudanese parties of an initial framework political agreement, an essential first step toward forming a civilian-led transitional government and establishing constitutional arrangement for a transitional period. We support the plans by Sudanese civilian parties and the military to hold inclusive dialogues on outstanding issues before concluding a final agreement and transferring authority to a civilian-led transitional government. And we call for quick progress toward this ends. In support of excuse me, in support of the Sudanese people's demands for freedom, peace, and justice under a democratic government, and recognizing the fragility of democratic transition, the United States will hold to account spoilers, whether military or political actors, who attempted to undermine or delay democratic progress. To that end, I am announcing today an expansion of the current visa restriction policy under Section 212A 3C or 3C of the Immigration and the Nationality Act to cover any current or former Sudanese officials or other individuals believed to be responsible for or complicit in undermining the democratic transition in Sudan, including through suppressing human rights and the fundamental freedoms and the immediate family members of such persons. This action expands the department's tools to support Sudanese democratic transition and reflects our continued resolve to support the people of Sudan in their manifest desire for a responsive and responsible civilian-led government. Just as we used our prior visa restrictions policy against those who undermined the former civilian-led transitional government, we will not hesitate to use our expanded policy against spoilers in Sudan's democratic transition process. We once again call on Sudan's military leaders to cede power to civilians, respect human rights, and end violence against protesters. At the same time, we urge representatives of Sudan's civilian leaders to negotiate in good faith and place the national interest first. So credit, that is U.S. State Department. So U.S. State Department, please press Abiy Ahmed and other Prosperity Party members who are spoilers not to have deal with Oromo Liberation Army. This is Oromo Liberation Army is not a small group. It's controlling more territories in Oromia region and got more than 100,000 armed men. It's a formidable force. So please put pressure on Prosperity Party. the same way you did for Tigray, and please bring Prosperity Party and oil representative so that our people, be safe. The bloodshed will come to an end. So that's all I have in reading. Let me see the couple of videos and end today's presentation. Okay, the first one is update on Georgia runoff. So that is concluded in the advantage for Democrats. So now Democrats control the Senate stably. They don't need the vice president to come and vote. So now the Georgia runoff, Senator Warnock won the runoff. Let's
It is my honor to utter the four most powerful words ever spoken in a democracy. The people have spoken. I want to say thank you to my mother who is here tonight. You'll see her in a little while. But she grew up in the 1950s in Waycross, Georgia, picking somebody else's cotton and somebody else's tobacco. But tonight, she helped pick her youngest son to be a United States Senator. Are you ready, Georgia? I'm ready. Stand up for workers. Stand up for women. To stand up for our children. I'm ready to build a stronger Georgia. God bless you. Keep the faith and keep looking up.
I think I have one more.
Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway sales event. Hurry in to get our best deals of the season. Get in and get away.
Tired
Get 0%
of these
APR financing
advertisements.
plus zero payments.
Okay, that's Peru.
A day of high drama
Change
in
of
Peru,
government.
with Vice President Dina Boluarte being sworn in as the country's new leader. Pedro Castillo dissolved Congress by presidential decree, a move the country's constitutional court said was a coup d'etat. As a result, he quickly lost the backing of his political allies.
A coup attempt has been made, an initiative led by Mr. Pedro Costello. It was not echoed by any democratic institutions or the people. Following on from the constitutional order, this Congress has made a decision, and it's my duty to act accordingly.
It was Congress's third impeachment attempt to oust Castillo. He tried to save himself with a bold move.
Will temporarily dissolve Congress and establish an exceptional emergency government while calling for elections for a new Congress and drafting a new constitution.
He then went even further, ordering the military to patrol the streets with a nighttime curfew. But as lawmakers began voting for the impeachment, Castillo left the presidential palace with his family. Police say he was going to request political asylum in Mexico, but instead he was arrested. His supporters clashed with police outside the station where he was held. Throughout his presidency, Castillo had constant confrontations with the political opposition. He was even expelled from his own party. Now, lawmakers say they want to work with a new president.
She should come with a cabinet that helps to deal with problems, not ministers who will only praise her.
Dina Boluarte is the first female president of Peru. She has asked Peruvians for unity and lawmakers for a truce. Mariana Sanchez, Al Jazeera, Lima, Peru.
Okay, So these are the updates I selected for you. So that's the parliament power. He tried to suspend the constitution, to remain in power, but they say no, you can't do that. So they removed him. They voted out and put the vice president as a president. So the people has power. So president, one person should not have such kind of power, changing the constitution or suspending the parliament. He tried, but thanks to the parliament, he couldn't succeed. He's in jail now, facing, other proceedings. So let me give you updates on World Cup Qatar 2022. So games are coming tomorrow, December 9, that's tomorrow Friday. 2 games, Croatia versus Brazil, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, CST. And another game tomorrow, Netherlands versus Argentina, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So on December 10, Saturday, we have our African team, Morocco versus Portugal, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and England versus France at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please watch these games and enjoy the tournament and pray for Morocco to win this quarter final and go to semi-final, then to the final. So let me finish today's presentation, today's updates by saying, please act against that short video calling, claiming that they have received a call from East Walaga to help, looking for help, but that may be a pretext. That's a message, is a message for ethnic cleansing between Amhara and Oromos. So that should be controlled. I hope, the federal forces will stop such call. This, as I said, this is a very coordinated thing by the Amhara regional government and the federal government. That's why we see all this bloodshed. So that's a very tough one, a very tough call for ethnic cleansing, and it must be stopped by any means. And I'm calling on all Oromos to come out, protest peacefully. Please don't leave this business to students. Students, yes, they are the actors. They are the one who, feel the pain first for their parent. But what about the parent? What about those, living in Addis Ababa, Adama, Shashaman, Nepal? They should come out. Don't leave it to the students. If you want to see change, if you want to see the removal of this prime minister, failed prime minister, come out with students, demand his removal, his resignation. That's the only way bloodshed can stop in Ethiopia. Thank you for joining me, and I will be back with other news and updates. Please be safe, and so long, everyone.